Hello everybody. My name is Manal Alharbi. My presentation today is about lexical selection in bilingual speech production and the evidence from mask priming and picture naming. So the presentation will start with a brief overview of the current views in lexical access, and then I'll move to explain the study and its findings and the discussion and so forth. So current models of lexical access and bilinguals assume that there is a shared concept system between the two languages of a bilingual individual, but two separate lexicon. Each conceptual representation is connected to its corresponding lexical nodes in the two languages. Each conceptual representation spreads activation to the corresponding lexical nodes in the two languages at the lexical level. So basically what I'm saying is that if you have a look at the diagram next, you can see that there is a conceptual level and a lexical level. So naming a picture of a cat, for example, will activate the conceptual representation at the concept level, which is shared across the two lexicon. We have here two separate lexicon, the English lexicon, for example, and the Spanish lexicon, for example, for an English-Spanish bilinguals. So seeing a picture of a cat will activate the conceptual representation of that picture, which will subsequently activate the conceptual representation at the lexical level. As you can see, not only the corresponding words cat and gato are activated, but also all the other related lexical nodes at the lexical level are activated. So this leaves us to questions. If several lexical nodes in the two languages are active, then how does the speaker select the target word among these activated lexical nodes? Do these activated lexical nodes in the target and non-target language compete for selection? Do they interfere for selection and impede the progress or the production process of a bilingual? Two schools of thoughts emerged to answer these questions, the language-specific view and the language non-specific view. The language-specific view agree that both lexical nodes are active at the lexical level, but only those in the target language are considered for lexical selection and then production, and they do not compete for selection. While the language non-specific view say that both are active, yes, but there is a selection mechanism. They compete, for selection, and there is a selection mechanism which chooses the lexical node that receive the highest level of activation. So the objective of my study is to further investigate these assumptions, to look at the co-activated lexical forms, whether they compete for selection or not, to look into the mechanism of selection, and also to further examine the proficiency level as a factor. Would it affect these cross-language activation and the selection process or not? So to address the disagreement in the literature, I adopted the mask priming paradigm in picture naming as a new tool of investigation. The procedure has the advantage that it's free of any attentional influences because the primes are masked and are presented for a short period, and because visual processing of prime and targets do not overlap. Well, this is unlike the commonly used task when investigating this issue, which is the picture word interference task. Usually we present participant with a picture, and next to it, the distractor word, which is visually present to participant. This would allow for confusion to whether the participant had to name the picture or the name that is vividly available and linguistically available for him. So I believe that the predictions of the different theoretical accounts can be tested since the conditions are similar to those in the picture word interference paradigm. My hypothesis, as what I have done so far, is that I ask participants to name pictures in L2 as fast and accurate as possible. This is the task. And the pictures were preceded by a masked prime word, and the prime word were of two types, either related, which is the translation equivalent in L1, and or unrelated, which is unrelated word in L1 too. So by means of this manipulation, I'm aiming to raise the level of activation of the non-target word. So my hypothesis is that if the activated lexical forms compete for selection at the lexical level, we anticipated to see interference effect, that is late responses when subject name picture preceded by related primes. If, however, the activated lexical forms do not compete for selection at the lexical level, I anticipated to see a facilitation effect, or at least no effect at all between the condition, no difference between them. So let's see, for example, this is a picture of a grapes. According to the assumptions, it should activate the conceptual representation at the conceptual level here, which subsequently send activation to the lexical nodes in the two language. Here in my task, L2 lexicon is the target word, which is grapes, and L1 is the non-target word. So what I'm doing here, I'm adding extra activation to the non-target lexicon node by this mask prime, which is the L1 word in Arabic. Okay, so if they compete for selection and the highest one with activation will be chosen for production, I should see some interference effect and more error responses. So for the to implement this task, I recruited 60 Arabic English bilinguals, and I divided them into two categories according to their proficiency level. The design of the experiment was of a mixed design. Between subject factor was proficiency level, and the within subject factor is the mask prime. The stimuli, I chose 30 line drawing pictures of objects from different categories: animals, foods, furniture, and they were all non-cognate, all have non-cognate names. Two types of prime words were selected for each picture. A prime word in L1 consistent of the translation equivalent for the name of the picture, and a prime word in L1 which is the unrelated to the picture name. For example, as we can see, as we saw before, a grapes was preceded by L1 word, the translation equivalent, which is ainab in Arabic. And in the unrelated condition, it was preceded by bicycle, which is the raja in Arabic. Each participant was presented with 30 prime target pairs, 15 with related primes and 15 unrelated primes, also plus the filler items, which is not included here. The procedures of the task were as follows. Participants were informed that they were required to look at the center of the screen and name the picture as fast and accurately as possible, to say pass if they did not know the name of the picture. They were not informed of the presence of the primes. Each trial consisted of the following sequence of events. The test initially commenced with a fixation point, which appeared in the middle of the screen for 500 milliseconds, followed by a visual mask of 500 milliseconds, followed by the prime word, and which was presented for 50 milliseconds, and then another visual mask for 14 milliseconds, and then the presentation of the picture, which remained on the screen until participant made a response. Now, for the result, as you can see, the results were straightforward. Pictures that were preceded by related primes were named faster than those preceded by unrelated prime words. Also, I found no difference in the performance of the two group of participants. Both experienced the same. Both named the pictures that preceded by related primes faster than those preceded by unrelated primes. Now, the results demonstrate that lexical nodes in both target and non-target languages were active at the lexical level, yes, and did not compete for selection, as no interference effect was observed. Also, proficiency level did not affect the manner of language selection and activation. Now, replicate, yeah. For future study, I'm thinking of replicating and suggesting for replicating, yeah, the experimental condition used in picture word interference task. For example, the semantically related prime word, phonologically related prime words, etc. To further investigate a single experiment using this paradigm, I don't think it's enough to argue for. We need to run further experiments using the same paradigm, but with different experimental conditions. And that's it. Thank you. I know I was fast, but that's me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions? Yes. You can press the button escape from your computer, from your keyboard.
Okay.
So, perfect. Do you have any questions?
Okay. So I'll stop sharing.
Yes. Julia, you wanted to ask something?
Yes, please. Hi.
Sure. Hello.
Thanks for
Hello,
your talk.
Julia.
Hiya, I really
Welcome.
enjoyed it. So I was just wondering if I understood correctly, all your participants, were they Arabic speaking dominant? That was their native language?
Yes, yes, Arabic native speakers.
And all the naming that they had to do was English, is that right?
Yes, yes.
So basically in your task, you primed with their dominant lexicon and they had to answer in their non-dominant lexicon, right?
Yes, yes, right.
I was wondering if we swapped that and you primed with English and then they had to name in their native language, would you expect any other results?
Yeah, I do expect other results because it's different to, and the processing would be totally different when you process in the dominant language and in the non-dominant language. For sure, yeah, I do expect some other changes. And it could be also one of the factors that we could manipulate in future studies too. And also, I was thinking of the duration of the prime. So far, I only used 50 milliseconds for the prime word. I was also thinking of extending that to 100 milliseconds to tap into different level of processing later on.
Yeah, sounds good. If you don't mind, if I can follow up, what if you speculate, what do you think might change in the priming? Do you think that more interference could happen?
If it is in the dominant language, no, I don't think more interference, because when it comes to dominant language, usually I found in research or in the literature that little interference is caused by the non-dominant language. Usually that's the findings normally.
Thank you, interesting.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question.
Thank you very